My name is Joyce Slaughter and I'm a philosophical counselor. I'm going to show you how to solve any problem. The model that we're going to use is called peace. P, identify the problem. We're not going to solve all the problems at one time. The key to solving problems is to break them down into manageable sections, one problem at a time. Now it makes sense to start with the problem at the root of the issue. So one exercise that you can do to identify a problem is to simply ask why repeatedly. So let's say the problem is you're always late for work. So let's start by asking why. Why are you late for work? And when you answer that, if you say, well, because I'm always late running out the door. Why? Why are you always late running out the door? Well, because it takes me a long time to make breakfast. Why? Why does it take you a long time to make breakfast? Well, because I have to mix up all of these ingredients and I get distracted by the dog and the kids and everything, and it just takes a long time. Why do you get distracted? Well, because everybody's all running everywhere. Why? Well, because they're not paying attention to their own things. They come to me for answers. Why? Because sometimes they don't know what to do. Why? Well, because I don't always know what I need them to do. I mean, what time should they be doing things and what order do they need to do them in? My husband doesn't know what the baby needs. Why? So you see how this can go on and identify the parts and aspects of a problem. You take a big problem and you break it down into pieces, and then you identify one problem. E, emotions. Now, this is where things can get a little hairy and you have to make some choices. There are two ways to approach any problem. The first is to cope. And the second is to heal. And a lot of times we have trouble doing both. And so sometimes we have to make a choice. Do I want to focus on coping with this situation? Or do I have the energy and the time and the resources to heal? Somebody who is overwhelmed in a situation may need to cope. But somebody who is in a more stable position, who has resources and support, may be able to make some changes and to actually heal in a situation. So on step E, we need to look at the emotions that are involved. And if we've decided to learn to cope with those emotions, then we need to employ some coping skills. There are several things that we can do. Now, some of these can be simple, such as journaling, art therapy, talking to someone, doing a thought download. There are several things that we can do to help deal with those emotions. One of the simplest things is to simply notice your emotions. Identify what you're feeling. I'm feeling anxious right now, and I feel it right here. And then change the way that you approach that. I notice I'm feeling anxious. And what that does is it creates a little space between you and your emotions. Instead of being in it and feeling it so much, by saying that you're noticing something, there's a little bit of a gap where you go from reaction in the moment, in the emotions, to response, of making a choice, of observing and seeing. And that's a different brain space. Now, if you're not in a place where you can get outside of that, that's okay. And there are skills and tools that you can use to simply work on coping with a situation. But if you're ready to heal and to move forward and to make change, that's a different set of skills, and we can move on through the peace exercise. A is for analyze. And this is where we're going to dump everything out on the table. Let's look at everything that's going on. Let's look at all of the aspects. We want to think existentially. We want to think about the body, the mind, the noetic, the social aspects, the environment, all of these different things that are playing into the situation. We want to take the time to see the perspectives of other people. We maybe want to imagine what it's like to be that other person in the situation and to think about what they're thinking. We want to look at all the options. We want to look at what we can control and what we can't control, because it's an exercise in futility to try and change those things that we simply can't control. But in every problem, there is always, always an element of control. Now, sometimes it's simply the attitude that we can take towards it. That may be all we have, but that's still something. That's still a choice, and that's still an opportunity to create meaning. So once we've figured out those things that we control, then we can look at the options that we have. We want to look at all of those options and look at everything, no matter how silly it is. This is a brainstorming session where there's no wrong answers. We just want to get everything out there and look at it. We want to experiment with it. That's the analyze stage. Now we can move on to the C stage. C is for contemplation. Once we have everything out on the table, once we've looked at everything from all the different areas, we want to let it sit for a bit. I like to use the analogy of the snow globe. You know, you've seen these little things, usually out around the holidays, and you pick them up and they've got a little scene inside, and there's a globe full of water that has little bits in it, sometimes glitter. And then you turn it over and it moves around like snow inside. But after a while, it starts to settle. So what that A stage did was it stirred up your snow globe. All of those options are out there, all of the choices, all of the perspectives, everything is out there. But we need to step back for a minute and just let everything settle, taking time to think. And we want to make that space in different ways. We want to allow for time to go by as much as we can give ourselves. Now, some decisions do need to be made quickly, and you may not have the opportunity to take a lot of time. But if you do, the more time that you can give yourself to let the snow globe settle, the better. Now, that does not mean that you can keep extending the time once the snow globe has settled. That's very different. That's avoidance. But you need to allow time for your snow globe to settle. And the purpose for that is E, equilibrium. We want to reconnect with our values. We want to uncover what is at the core of us that we truly, truly care about. What are those things that are most important to us? Who are the people most important to us in our lives? What kind of life do we truly want to live? What does life mean to you? And as we go through these different values and understandings, now we can look at the options that we're available and determine at what point do the options line up with our values in equilibrium. At what point can we look at those and determine that's the one that fits my values the best? And a lot of times that means, what can I take responsibility for? You see, choice begets responsibility. If we can make choices, and remember, we've eliminated the areas where we can't make choices. But of all of those where we can make choices, we are responsible for our choices. And if we're responsible for our choices and we step up, that's a very empowering thing. And the power that comes from responsibility helps us to take those actions and connect with our values. And so that's the process. P-E-A-C-E. P, identify your problem. Pick one. E, look at the emotions around it and make your choice as to whether you need to focus on coping or on healing. A, analyze the situation, the entire situation. Figure out what you control and what you don't control. Look at all of your options from as many perspectives as possible. C, step back and give yourself time and let your snow globe settle. E, equilibrium. We want to determine core values, the things that are most important to us, and align those things up with the choices that we have. We want to take responsibility for the choices that we have and that will empower us to move forward towards our goals. Now you can solve any problem. Bye-bye.